Miscellaneous minds, never explaining the minds. Devilish grin for my alias, aliens who respond. Peddling sin, thinking maybe when you get old you realize I'm not gonna fold or demise. I don't smoke crack, motherfucker, I sell it.
What is going on, everybody? This is the Miscellaneous Minds Podcast. I'm your co-host, Puma Gato, the cat that hands you your representation back. And to my right over here is the main man, Sustanera, the man that makes the fat stacks. Together we form that dynamic duo that won't die. Deadly ideas, brother, and spice your content. There is OnlyFans.
What is going on, everybody? Before we get into tonight's topic, please make sure to like, comment, hate, subscribe, DM us about the bullshit, and with that, let's get right into it. I'm actually going to let my man here take the reins on this one because he did a little bit more research on this than me, but I do have a little bit of opinion, so I'm going to let him take the reins, and then I'll jump in with my opinions after that.
Okay, so this topic is regarding the new Snow White film. You've probably seen all of the promotional material going for it. You probably may have heard more of the controversy regarding its lead actress that has taken the titular role herself, Miss Rachel Zegler. Rachel Zegler has been getting a lot of controversy because of her comments regarding comments that the movie itself needed a little bit of an update. It was made in 1937. It was a bit outdated for a time, so it probably needed a little bit of an update. That was her issue, her own cadence, her own attitude towards the original source material, which, by the way, she claims she only watched once. Only once, and then a second viewing upon actually getting the role for the film. That's a whatever issue, but that's just more of a minor gripe. Anyways, so people were having some issues with it, not just because of the actual casting itself, considering that Rachel Zegler herself is Colombian and Polish descent, but Colombian more so, and that the fact that Snow White herself is depicted as having skin as white as snow. But yeah, we're casting a minority for this. This is actually the one time we're like, okay, there's no leeway for this. Like, you really do have to cast a white person because that's legitimately what the character itself was depicted as. Anyways, Rachel Zegler was also getting a little bit of controversy for attitude towards the film, considering that, it's no longer a love story. Now it's, a princess learning her role and how to be a ruler to her people, which I don't know if you guys watched Snow White recently. That is literally not the entire point of it at all. If you watch the original Disney film, which, by the way, this isn't just another remake. Snow White as a film, the 1937 animated film, is such a hallmark because for Disney, this was their very first movie, their very first animated movie that put them on the map. So this in and of itself was a huge hallmark, and they're going nosediving in the quality. Either Rachel herself doesn't know Snow White or the writers don't. Both of them proved to be very horrific implications as to who is fucking up here. If you watch the original movie itself, it has really more to do with an evil witch plagued with vanity that she is not the fairest of them all. And before we get into that, Rachel herself defined fairest of them all as the most just ruler in the kingdom. No, the fuck that does not. That's literally not what that means. In the book and even in the film itself, fairest of all was described as being the prettiest in all the land. It literally is. You cannot be any more on point with. It is literally the prettiest person in the kingdom, in the valley, whatever you want to say. So the most just ruler, that has nothing to do with that. It has nothing to do with being a just ruler. It has nothing to do with being too authoritarian. No, it literally means she is the prettiest. And Rachel Zegler thinks this is an empowerment film. It's like, it's just because it has a female role doesn't necessarily mean it has to be an empowerment role. It is legit a love story first and foremost. I'm gonna let you jump on it because I have a lot more to say about the issue. It's gonna get a little bit more heavier on my end on that.
Listen, here's the problem that I have with that particular take of the whole, this isn't, she's gonna save herself, she doesn't need a man to save her. Listen, there are a lot of ways in which women can be empowered and take certain roles in society that they want to take, whatever those roles are, for them to choose, that can move women forward and empower them and make them girl bosses and blah, 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 blah. There's a lot of ways women can do that. When you say something like this for a movie that for a lot of people, including women, was a story that, they grew up watching or they fell in love with or so, like, you're beating a dog to death, man. Like, we get it. Women can do everything that men can do. We don't disagree in the least bit. But this whole when it's every single movie has to be girl power. It's like, okay, like, bro, like, Like, this is starting to get a little bit annoying. And I mean, I'm with it. See, that's the problem, is that on one of the previous podcasts we talked about how, like, we feel like the left is pushing us out. We're here for it. If they want to make movies in which they empower women, I'm all for it. Do it. But when you're doing this on movies that for a lot of people, and again, including women, are classics because of what they were, what they grew up watching, it's a little bit insane to me. I'll give you this specific fact. I am all for it. In fact, there's a couple people in my realm that are like, I don't know why they're making The Little Mermaid black. I was all for it. I'm like, look, I think it's good. I think it's cool. I think it's dope. Now, I'm not going to lie to you because I'm impartial and unfair. The movie lost $60 million. It didn't make what it was supposed to make. It made less, but I was for it. And see, that's what we're talking about when we talk about impartiality on this show. I was for them making The Little Mermaid black. I'm all for it. I think a lot of the videos that I saw where little black girls were seeing themselves in The Little Mermaid and they're like all excited. I thought that shit was fucking adorable. I'm here for it. I'm fucking here for it. I'm all, like Rachel Zegler said, I'm all for more brown women being in movies. I'm all here for it. It's empowerment to our Latinas. It's empowerment to our sisters. I am here for it. The problem is the way that you're going about it. You don't think there's a lot of Latinas, there's a lot of brown women that want a love story? You don't think there's a lot of women that say, okay, yeah, blah, 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 with that women's empower shit. Get in there and make a love story. There's a reason why a lot of these scenarios are love stories, because women love that shit. And here's the thing. I get it. There's a certain portion of women, especially in today's field, that are saying, I don't want that shit anymore. That's perfectly fine. But again, make new movies, make new Disney princesses, which they've been doing. Fucking Elsa is a fucking classic. People love that shit. They're like gonna make a third one, I heard. Like, there's a number of different issues that are coming out that, again, you can continue to make new Disney princesses. And my thing is, why remix the old shit? Let it be what it was and show new women, new movies with women of empowerment. Show new women being empowered by new things. You don't have to mess with the old shit. And a lot of people are saying, well, why do you want to keep it the same so much? Listen, I'll be honest with you. I don't give a shit. I know it's because I'm passionate. People think, oh, this guy cares. He wants to keep everything the same. I don't. Here's the thing. I just don't like stupid arguments. The one thing you will see consistently come out of my mouth is, I don't like stupid arguments. And this is a stupid argument. Again, I was all for them making The Little Mermaid black. I thought it was dope as shit. Little black girls saw themselves in a movie for once. Dope. I'm here for it. The movie lost money, though. Let's call it down the middle. It wasn't as popular as people wanted it to be. It wasn't the thing. And see, that's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. Make new things. Make new things empowering the women. Don't mess with the old shit, because when people see the old branding, they expect a certain caliber that comes with it. So when people are trying to remix all this new shit, it doesn't flow like it's supposed to, because there's so many people like myself, they're going to say, just leave it the way it is. Come up with new roles. Again, I know Elsa, it was an empowering movie for women, and it had nothing to do with men. Dope. And it was very popular. Good for them. Good for women. Good for women. But we need to stop trying to remake all these old-ass movies and trying to make them something that they're not. It's stupid. Give it back to you, my man.
Yeah, and believe it or not, this actually wasn't the first time that Rachel Zegler has had controversy surrounding her role in another love story. Believe it or not, she was actually in the Steven Spielberg remake of West Side Story. For those of you that weren't aware of the original play or the literature that was based on, or the movie, West Side Story was basically it's basically like Romeo and Juliet, but if it was set in Spanish Harlem. It's featured a lot of Puerto Rican gangs for the most part. But yes, it was a Romeo and Juliet story, but with a gangster backdrop in the 1970s. Rachel Zegler was the Juliet in that movie, for lack of a better term. Again, she is of Colombian and Polish descent, playing a Puerto Rican role, which a lot of people had some issue with, because some people were saying, okay, well, it's pretty heavily reliant that you need to be like Puerto Rican based to kind of understand the nuances of what was going on in the story. And her like response to that was, oh, well, I had people coming up to me. It's like, do you even speak the language? Do you even care? Oh, well, how are you even, like, are you aware of like any of the culture? Do you even really care? Oh, have you ever had any of their food? Do you even really care? Which makes me think she doesn't really give a fuck about representation all that much, as long as she has a job. After all that talk about, oh, we need to see more brown women in movie roles. And you know what? Cool. I want to dissect that a little bit. I want to dissect the whole topic of representation that is plaguing so much of our media right now. If we want to have more brown people on stage, cool. I'm all for that. But it seems like there's no middle ground. It's either we either have to have every single one and in whatever roles it doesn't make sense in, or we need to have it as accurate as possible or none at all. And it seems like we can't really agree on what that is. If we're going to be all in on representation and you want to be as accurate as possible, you have to adhere to your own rules as well. We cannot be having Puerto Ricans being cast as Mexicans, Puerto Ricans, because if we're going to be completely honest about the whole representation thing, it doesn't seem all that fair if all the Puerto Ricans are being cast by Mexicans and vice versa. In fact, just to give a little bit of a history here, and this is going to be a little bit mind-blowing, there's actually 4 groups of Mexicans that we have in in 3 states and in Mexico. California Mexicans, Texas Mexicans, Arizona Mexicans, and Mexicans from Mexico. Virtually, we're all Mexicans, but they are 4 distinct groups, 4 different experiences, 4 different types of people. I've known Mexicans that were from Texas, and I've known Mexicans that were from California. 100% Mexican. California Mexicans did not understand Spanish, and we didn't eat the same food. We didn't have the same experience. And I can assume from some experiences that they've shared with me, Californian Mexicans, for the most part, are 2nd or 3rd generation, meaning that they didn't have the same struggles as what most Arizona or Texan Mexicans didn't have. They weren't 1st generation, so they didn't understand the struggles of being first generation immigrants. They didn't really understand the struggles of it. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just they don't have that experience. They don't have that struggle. They don't have the same experience as us. So for her to come out, a Colombian, say it's just a movie, who gives a shit? As long as there's a brown person on there, that's who you should be worrying about. That's where I kind of get a little bit cross. This is where I have an issue with, we need to have more representation. Cool, but are you the right representation? At the end of the day, if you're going to be the representative for all the Latin people, I want to make sure, are you a good representative? At the end of the day, the question I have to ask is, do I want Rachel Zegler representing me? At the end of the day, I have to say, no, I absolutely do not. Moving on from that, there was another thing that I actually wanted to talk about that's weirdly enough happening with Disney. I'm hoping it's not a trend, but it's a little bit coincidental for me not to point out. There was a Disney cartoon, might have heard about it, might not. Made the rounds, I want to say about a couple months ago. This is basically the story. So it is basically this Mexican girl. She's in kind of like this allegory for Southern California. She was born and bred there. She was basically a United States citizen. She's had all of her family, like extended family, cousins and all that, move all the way from Mexico, and they're basically living in the house with her, and it's basically like a whole bunch of like comedic panic, chaos, because she's trying to understand basically the roots of her family while still having a little bit of language barrier with them. Sounds like a cute story. It sounds like a good story. I would actually watch it. The problem is there was a little bit of controversy with the name of the show itself, which was called Oye Primos. To those that don't understand Spanish, the conjugation is wrong. The conjugation is wrong because if you're saying a plural, if you're referring to a group, the real conjugation should be oigan primos, not oye. Oye is for singular, which might not be that big of an issue. Again, it's Disney. They're not going to understand Latin audiences that well. However, the main showrunner herself basically dug the grave a little bit deeper because she went on to defend the title of that card, and she's like, look, we're trying to make a cartoon for kids. They're not going to care about that. And if we really want to be honest with ourselves, Spanish is a colonizer's language. So I'm not really all that concerned about learning the conjugation, all that. If you don't like that, I'm not really sure what to tell you. Which the irony of saying Spanish is a colonizer's language while using another colonizer's language, which is English, blows my mind, because what kind of excuse is that? Why not just, it's 2 seconds. Just look up a simple conjugation of oye. You're going to find it. You're going to find it. There's legit no excuse, especially for a showrunner to be on a mainstream network like Disney and pitching a show like that, which I imagine you're trying to give as a love letter to Mexicans or Mexican Californians, as a love letter to understand their roots, and you can't even get that name right? There's again, I hope it's not a trend. I hope it's just these two coincidental incidents of Disney basically hiring two Latins that are kind of not really sure if they want to represent Latins as a whole. Yes, we're kind of representing them, but not really, because I mean, I still want a job at the end of the day. It's a little bit disheartening, to say the least. It's very disappointing that this is the representation that we're getting. This is the issue that I have with representations. Like, look, if you want to have representation and brown people, cool. I'm all for that. I absolutely would adore that. My problem is, don't replace mainstay characters that were depicted as absolutely white. And there's no debate about it. It was like, okay, it's you. They never actually explicitly said, no. They explicitly said she has skin as pale as snow. There's no going around it. The setting itself was like, it was Europe. There's no going around it. This was a white character. In fact, you know what? I actually went to go see Blue Beetle, whatever. That is a perfect example of the representation that we need. The Blue Beetle himself, Jaime Reyes, in the comics, was Mexican. Jaime Reyes, his actor in the movie, was Mexican. This is a perfect one-to-one. Look, it was the perfect casting. This is the representation that we need. You're taking an already established Mexican character being portrayed by a Mexican actor, and there's no changes other than maybe the plot, maybe. But this is the representation. If you want to go all in, this is what we want. This is what we want to see. This is the accurate representation that we need.
You know, and let me jump in on that to give somebody the reverse of that. So that people don't think we're hating on brown people, because we're brown people ourselves. Let me give you a really good example of someone where I was pissed where they made a brown character white. Bane in the goddamn comics is Mexican. He's a Latino. But in the motherfucking movie, motherfucker sounded British as fuck. And I have a problem with that. See, that's the thing is, we're not against brown representation. We're all for it. I want to see more of it. I'm here for it. But it's the people that they're choosing. It's like they're pandering. They're like, oh, we need to get the Latins in on here. Let's throw them a little bit of meat. And then they pick random brown people to represent us. It's like if they cast a Hindu or a fucking Muslim and they're like, oh, you're brown, play a Mexican. No, motherfucker, it ain't the same goddamn thing. So listen, I'm all here for it. Again, I was all here for the Little Mermaid being black. I still think it's a good idea for all them little black girls to be able to see themselves in the Disney princess. Good. Let's just not lie about the facts about the movie didn't do good. I'm all here for more brown representation. I just don't think that Rachel Zegler is the one to do it. I think this whole, oh, I needed to upgrade the role. Look, listen, it's a classic for a reason. And I know a lot of people are going to hate on that statement. I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, yeah, you just think old school. You don't want, it has nothing to do with that. Make new movies with women empowerment. I'm here for it. I'll go watch them. I'll support. Just don't do it with this shit. People go in and wanting to watch Snow White and they expect the classic. Make new things. Make new movies. They can become classics. Make them about women empowerment. We're here for it. I'm here for it. He's here for it. We are here for it. Just don't pick these people that you're picking because they're just pandering. They're not really here for the true essence of the role. They're not really here. And here's the thing. We see through it. We see through it. I don't believe that Rachel Zegler is really fucking about, oh, brand representation. She may say that, but it's just throwing meat to the lens. Let's really be about what we're fucking saying we're about. Let's stop the bullshit. Again, I saw Blue Beetle as well. I was here for the film. I liked it. Let's really be about it. I have a little bit of an issue with certain cast members, but it doesn't matter. I'm here for it. Anything else you want to add to that, my man?
Yes, there's one tiny thing that actually bothered me about the whole representation thing and the whole recasting a lot of these Disney films, whatever. So a lot of these people that go on to do these recastings, they always say, okay, well, we're updating it, we're giving it so it's representation. And look, let's be 100% honest with ourselves here. Disney hasn't really produced anything original in a long time. It's either been franchise reboots, sequels, and nothing more. If they're going to be, okay, we're all about giving representation on that. All right, cool. Why haven't they give you anything original? Why are they only giving you something that already has a big marquee value name like Snow White or Beauty and the Beast or Little Mermaid? It has nothing to do with that. If they were really confident about giving minorities a voice, they would give you an already new IP. They would not give you anything that already has an established name and established franchise. If they really gave a fuck about minorities, getting a voice in Hollywood, they would give you original ideas. If they're giving you an already established IP, they're basically communicating to you, we have no confidence of this film doing good on its own. That's my final thoughts. You want to lead us out, brother?
With that, please make sure to like, comment, hate, subscribe, DM us about the bullshit, and
until next time, get rest and stay blessed. We'll see you on the next one.